it. I mean,
Oh, here we are with live. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I was going to start with, and let me show you what I was going to start with. And in fact, I'll start with it anyway. But we will. This fellow here, the Flowcopter. Did we all see this week? I was astounded. Did you see it, Bruce?
No, Flowcopter. Is it Scottish?
It is Scottish. It is.
Yeah, that's
And
why it's called Flow. Flow's a very
and it's
Scottish name.
Hydraulic powered. It's not spun by elastic trickery. It's spun by hydraulic fluid.
The question we must ask ourselves is why?
No, that's not the question we ask.
Just
We
because you
never-
can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Ever,
Yeah,
ever
hydraulics.
asked
We've
that
gone back
question.
20 years.
Yeah, well, I mean,
never go wrong.
that impressed me. But I think probably the story that is more interesting now is this one that dropped about an hour ago. ZAG have delivered 100 of their crop sprayers to Ukraine. I mean, I should imagine they'll only ever be able to spray chemicals. I can't
Will,
think they'll
will
be
there
able
be
to
any
do
crops
anything
left
else.
after the mortar attacks and the bombings and things?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, that could be a
well,
problem.
there's your drone air force in one go. There's your chemical warfare air force.
It's just a shame it's illegal to weaponize them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Has anybody seen these fly in person?
Yes. In fact, I saw one this week in the village. Can you believe there's one in the village here in South Africa? And they are huge. They're absolutely huge. Sits on the back of his pickup truck, and he does a little job here and a little job there. Yeah, there was a dealer down the road. But the
Did he show
DPI
you?
guy.
The
Sorry?
cell phone app for the application and whatnot?
No, I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah,
but I've
you
seen
got to
one.
pull them over and you got to ask them. It's great because the applicators themselves are not 50s technology, like kind of what's on the Yamaha. They actually, you can through the cell phone app, you can adjust the size of the droplets, things like that with the application. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're big old things. But yeah, 100 of them in the Ukraine. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? It just blew my mind that came up. Chinese company, of course.
I hope
Where
they're
do you
not
want to
using
start?
GLaNOS for their GPS because the Russians will just acquire them by spoofing.
Yeah. Well, it'd be very interesting to see what counter stuff could defeat that. I'm not sure that the Russians are as advanced as they pretend they are, but as long as you're using your spark gap transmitter, all bets are off. So it doesn't actually spoofing doesn't have to actually be all that advanced, does it? Just turn up the dial, and increase the power.
Well, somewhere in Moscow, there's an offset knob they just turn for the GLaNOS satellites, and everything moves out to the west or the east or wherever it goes.
Probably does, doesn't it?
It's going to go east. It's going to go east.
I haven't looked at the news in the last hour or two, but I'm sure even more of it's kicking off.
I think I saw Putin saying that they're going to need help with those drones. We will send troops in to help them with those drones and keep the peace.
And there was, did you see the false flag with the Russian thing that was claimed to be Ukrainian? Good evening, Toms. Yeah, there was a false flag, and that was a Russian. I can't remember the make of the thing, but it was definitely a Russian thing. It wasn't Ukrainian. So all sorts of shenanigans are going on. Right, where should we start with that? That's what I thought was interesting. Now, Ian hasn't got his. I guess you haven't got your Autel with you because you've gone back to the world of grown-up work.
I have had to go back to. I have actually got it in the car, but I forgot to bring it in with me. I haven't flown it a great deal yet because in the UK we've had some of the worst weather we've had for ever. Is the right term to use, or ever on record, I should say. So I'm hoping this weekend. I've put a little bit of flight time on it, and just to have a sort of move around and play and feel, and it does what you expect it to do when you expect it to do it. I've done a couple of images, so I'm trying to see if I had any storm damage. I will say the camera's low light is very good. The camera's low light is very good. Is my video frozen, Bruce?
No,
Or was he wiping
no.
it?
Ian,
But, no,
the real question is though, is the video and the stills, are they sharp? Are they good?
I'll be honest, from what I've seen, it looks very good. And I tell you what shocked me more than anything. I did a quick recording at like 4 o'clock on a gloomy day, looking sort of into my kitchen from outside and utility room, and it was black inside. And there's like no noise in the image. The image is really clean considering how bad it was out. Do you know what I mean? The light level was fairly low. So it could have a very, very good camera. A couple of observations at the aircraft. It is incredibly light and incredibly cheap feeling. But the aircraft itself, we're having to get used to these new smaller drones being so light, your instant reaction is cheap because the plastics are super thin. Even the battery is. You can squeeze the plastics on the battery and it moves. Just picking up the battery, you'll feel it moves. And it's not quality. It's not being done for quality. It's being done for weight to get these aircraft down under the weight limit. But there is this perception you will instantly pick it up and go, oh, this feels a bit cheap. And it is a natural feeling you've had from products in the past. But on the flip side, the remote control is incredibly heavy. It's the heaviest remote controller I've ever felt. It's insane. But there's a lot to like. It's not a cheap aircraft though. You know, it's an £800, $750 aircraft for a micro drone. So it's a lot of money.
Is the one you've got, is yours the plus one or is yours just
Nano
the standard?
Plus. No, so Nano Plus.
So you've got anti-collision.
Yeah.
On a 250-gram drone.
Yeah.
That's
no GF.
But does anyone use anti-collision? Not as far as I'm aware. They don't mandate it.
And important to note, at some point, I believe everything sold has to have geofencing at some point in the future. However, it's an aircraft that I'm looking forward to your review, your findings, Ian, because this is one of those ones that I think I will ditch the Mini for. So my Mini will go, I think, if it's good enough, the Autel's good enough, this is going.
I really like something that really caught me on it. Oh, sorry, Patrick.
No, I was going to just say the truly amazing thing is it's you left it in the car and it's still there. That was California. That thing would be gone.
No, it's
you didn't know it's still there.
A really interesting thing. I don't know it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, anything in the car is a really donation at this point.
The really interesting thing is the software, and this is something they've got right. It basically is DJI Go from a few years ago, but it has everything you need. So it's not DJI Go, but it's like Autel's clone of it. It has almost everything you want. And in recent times, all of the complaints against DJI have been they're taking away features that people want. This just has everything. You know, it's all there. Full manual modes. You've got all of the functionality, the controls. Anyone who's used, you know, a Mavic Pro or Mavic 2, you instantly are used to it. You just pick it up and go, oh, okay, I know what that does. I know what that does. A couple of things are laid out a bit differently.
Are they all in the same place? Sorry. Are they all
in the menus? Yes. The menus is very, very similar. It's very, 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 you know, literally 2 minutes and you're already going, I've got my head around this. The only real strange one is they've got a voice in the app, which is like a 2010 Siri is the term I use. It is extremely robotic, old Stephen Hawking style feedback. And I did sort of say to them,
Stephen Hawking is my co-pilot.
I did say, any chance we can bring it into the 21st century with the voice, please, from the app? Because you know, DJI has
to play a game.
And it's like, do you want to take off? And it's a bit oldie worldy, but other than that, so far there's a lot to like.
So it's like DJI Go - DJI Go 4 then, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's a mix. I'd say it's more for Go 4 than Go, but it's again most of what you're looking for is there. I'm not saying everything, but you know, manual camera controls. You've got controls over the battery discharge. You've got controls over the return to home stuff. all of the stuff, DJI have got themselves in this weird position where they keep taking away features on aircraft. If some of DJI's drones were cars, right, they wouldn't come with steering wheels, because that's the route they seem to have gone down in recent years. They've been taking away more and more options, and you're selling a product today that has less options than a product they released 2-3 years ago, which is strange.
So another question. Does it have any mapping software built in? Can you draw a grid and say map that grid?
I don't know. I haven't got that far into the software. I didn't have a look. There are smart shots, but I haven't. I don't think there's waypoints, but I could be wrong. Please don't hold me to that.
Okay.
Wasn't the SDK open for it though? Wouldn't that be able to?
I think the SDK is being worked on. Yeah, there's been a bit of hoo-ha. My only concern is that it's a lot of drone for the money. I'm not convinced you need object avoidance on a sub 250 gram drone. Okay, I still have this feeling of how many people actually use it. I still think it is the price could be a barrier on this one. If you look at the Mini, what's the Mini, Mark? 400, 500.
So fly more packs.
Oh wow,
549.
Yeah, 549.
But
yeah,
is this too cheap? If you look at the Mavic 3, which you think is priced right, which is what, $2,000, and then you've got this 549. Is this not too cheap? Because in my head, if you're saying the Mavic 3 is value for money at its pricing or slightly too cheap, then surely this is too cheap.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because there's been a lot of talk actually on the FPV side of things. Some complaints. There's a new ear unit coming for HD0, and people have been complaining about the price of that being too expensive, and they're comparing it to DJI. And people forget DJI are able to leverage their size and position and their money, frankly, to manipulate pricing. They haven't put any of their drones up yet. Autel have had to in the US because of these new taxes and tariff changes, yet DJI haven't. So, DJI's pricing is artificial. It's been artificial for a very long time. I'm not saying it's not good value for users. We've all benefited from it. But the reality is Autel are playing a bit fairer, open with the market. They're a Chinese company. Let's not get away from that fact. They're not an American company. They're a Chinese company. But they are appearing to try and play level with people. We've had to put our prices up. I think we've just added like $150 to a number of their drones. They've had no choice.
Chip shortage, bad time, isn't it? Bad time to be putting this sort of thing out. But I look forward to seeing your video. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just going to agree. The chip shortage at the minute is our biggest problem for everyone. Across the board. Doesn't matter what you want to buy, you're going to pay now more for a chip.
I think something that has surprised me in it is if my tests bear out the way they're heading, they have matched OcuSync. Now, that in itself is a very big thing because DJI's real lead over everyone has been the wireless control systems. That's been where they're, others have been able to make good cameras. You can make good cameras, but if you look at the Karma, if we look at the Skydio, where these drones fall over, is the wireless. And they seem.
What's the claimed range?
It's us up there with DJI. I'll have a look on the numbers. I've had it on the Spectrum Analyzer, which we saw it Sunday, and it's interesting. It's really interesting. So it opens the door. If they've caught up, then perhaps others might as well.
They haven't got the name.
Unless they're different halves of the
we
same
all
person.
know the name. We all know the name, but the general public just don't know the name. They've got a big mountain to climb to suggest that there are. Well, I'm sure there are a similar quality, but they're big mountain for them to climb to get that into public's head.
So, another quick question, if I can. The colour of the DJI is grey. How's the orange on the Autel? How's it standing out in flight?
It's orange. It's very orange. I haven't had it at range. A drone that small, I'll be honest, Mark, it fades away quickly. Even at 30, 40 meters. It's that small. It fades to nothing.
White is the most visible color in the sky.
Yeah.
I see that changing tack very, very slightly, but almost the same. I see that the DJI update on the Mavic 3 has balked ADS-B, some users are saying. So, as you mentioned, they remove features with upgrades, and it seems they've removed that feature. I don't know if you heard anything about that. We've been training Ian.
I haven't seen much. I've been out of it most of this week. To be honest, between Milton Keynes on Monday and everything, it's been a very, very busy week. There's an ongoing slew of complaints on the Mavic 3. I'd love to see the sales numbers. I would love to genuinely understand how it's gone. I can't imagine it's good. There's been lots of complaints this week about the Ronin 4D, or last week, I should say, because it shipped with a feature missing. The blame is being leveled at Red, who have a patent on ProRes RAW, and the belief is Red are not willing to deal with DJI on it, although they have got it in one of their products. And it's a bit of a problem for the camera industry because you have one camera manufacturer that seems to hold a patent on one of the major codecs in the industry, and it's not good for anyone. It should never have been allowed to happen. And what it seems is they'll allow DJI to put it in their aerial aircraft, but not their ground equipment.
Ground-based stuff. Other competitors.
If Blackmagic was smart, they'll start licensing B-RAW and try and provide a much more readily available alternative.
And B-RAW could be good, Bruce, as you say, because there are a lot of people using Resolve as well.
An interesting week. And then the other thing, the DJI thing, was the new controller. What's that all about?
Yeah, this looks like everyone thinks it's for the Agras or the newer Agras. But again, it's a classic example of them not thinking about their naming. It's going to be called the RC Plus. Now, Plus is below Pro in my head.
Yes.
Unless it's going to be RC Pro Plus Black Edition Ultra HD.
Platinum.
Like today's ones. Platinum
4
edition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks bigger and better, yet it's a plus, not a pro. And it is a classic example of the not, I think, at times fully understanding their own naming schemes. They think it's for the Agras. I don't. There's a lot of whispers on an Inspire 3. The noise is really starting to build on this now. And I think it's going to happen. I won't have one. I think it will be almost 50% more than the current model. I think it'll be all out.
It's just what India needs for the movie industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of dancing to cover.
Well, they need to either, with the Inspire 2, they need to either bring it back or they need the Inspire 3. They want is it the X9 camera? X7, X9s for the film world.
The X9 never shipped for aerial. The X7 they shipped, but the X9 never. The X9's ground-based only. It's looking like it's not going to be the old Dragon Skull, the old folding mechanism. It's more looking like it's going to be a folding in mechanism, I think, than a folding. More like what they've done with the Mavic, with the arms going in, Mark, instead of the transitioning. They're from the look of it, they're changing how it, which makes sense because the design is compromised now. They can't improve it any more than it is.
Well, as long as they use the M10 system.
Yeah, there's always been complaints that the Inspire moved around a lot, and it's always been believed it's due to that transitioning mechanism because the arms have to transition and there's movement in that. But no, we'll have to see. It's been an interesting week for them. I don't think there's a lot exciting going on. There hasn't been that product they said was coming, though. They were hinting at a new product that was going to be here in... Well, they didn't say when, but they said to people you could win the chance to be the first with it. Yet I've seen...
Yes.
No more. There's been nothing.
But I think it's going to be another camera, isn't it?
If I was a betting man, it would be the little handheld one, not the little handheld one, not the Firebox, the Fire Stick. You could label from the Firebox to the Fire Stick.
The gimbal one.
But I think if I had money to buy, if I was actually in the market ready to fly today, I would be giving Autel a serious look. Now, I wouldn't have 12 months ago, but today, I think they could be in trouble. They could, for once, be in trouble.
Pretty glowing based on a couple of flights and a couple of photos. That's a pretty interesting
it
first
does
look.
enough. And that's the thing. It does it does what I need a drone to do, and that's what's important. So if then it comes down to brand, well, why would you
And
not give
price.
Autel a try?
That price is going to be a killer point.
The price is a killer. Yeah, I would agree with you. Which is, what's the Mini 2 in the UK, Mark? You say 550, yeah, the Fly More,
Yeah,
and this
550.
is 750 for the basic kit.
But I think of it like this. I do a lot of commercial work. I do work in flight restriction zones and other places where I can, I've got permission to fly. I can legally fly. Having to put up with DJI BS is absolutely.
How much is that
horrendous.
worth? Yeah. How much is that worth?
And to me, the value is. So I did a job last year. It was a caravan lodge park. There was I think it was a small RAF base nearby, literally in line with the runway. And the base is shut in the morning. So as long as I got there before a certain time, they were happy. It's like, go, crack on, you'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. This, my Phantom 4 Pro, nothing would fly in the park itself. So the only photos I could get of this park were from about 100 meters out. And I had to use the Phantom 4 Pro because the camera could just about do it, take a load of pano shots and then punch in to get the shot, the nice shots and everything. But it made the job so painful. The Nano, I'd have just been, the Autel Nano, rock up, got permission, get it out, do my checks, fly.
I'll tell you something, I wouldn't be shocked. And if this happened, now that there is no American policy stroke lead on that kind of thing with regards to geofencing and stuff, if sales start getting eaten into, I would not be shocked if you start to see some hacks reappear for the NFC systems on DJI. And I can you'll know if they're worried if they appear, because I think we've always said Brendan was a big advocate of what he was trying to do on that and push that narrative, and I'll let Patrick go down his rabbit hole on that one. But
it's just reality. I don't know.
Yeah, but now he's not there. Do we honestly think DJI in China really care that much about that legislation compliance?
No.
I think they care about selling, but right now there's a total disconnect. But I think they worked themselves into a box. I don't think there was a coordinated effort there, and they kind of worked themselves into a box. But I'm going to use the AOPA model again, the Airplane Owners and Pilots Association, and you don't give up anything without getting something in return. And I don't think. The geofencing thing, we didn't really get anything in return as far as I'm concerned. That kind of segues into the regulatory thing with the new DAC, which is the Advanced Air Mobility. Yeah, there you go, Advisory Committee. And it's such a letdown. I mean, if you notice, there's some of the luminaries have left. And I think that some of the luminaries understand that they're getting a stink on them. And they got to get out of there because, what if we? Yeah, there's a new gang, and we've seen the chairpersons of the past, almost all of them, to the last man of them or woman of them, has left under a cloud, a dark cloud, and the FAA tries to scapegoat them now. Moving forward, if you read through this, every so many years, the FAA likes to take up what I call the cause of the damned. And in this instance, it's STEM education, which is great. There's like 50 pages in here about STEM education and what we're going to do. And to me, it's like you've already thrown up all the barriers you can for model aviation and STEM education with flight and rockets and all the rest of that. And now we're talking about, how to fix the damage. And I think there's a lot of that too in the regulatory side of things. I definitely believe the 250 grams is too low. No science on that thing. This geofencing is bugging me. Everybody's talking about standards still. I mean, even in here, they talk about, the FAA talks about standards, man. 17 years or more of standards work, and the FAA has yet to. I'm not even going to say that they've adopted some. They haven't even spent the time or money or found the expertise to validate this stuff. It's a mockery.
But here's the thing, they talk about SORA straight away. It's like, and PDRAs. It's like, oh yeah, oh really? Oh, where did you find that from then? And as you say, when I read this and I saw that line, I thought, flipping heck, as you say, 17 years, and now they're going to do what Europe does.
Yeah, but Europe, even Europe, EASA, they put out a tender, right? There's about, I want to say there's either, I can't remember off the top of my head, it's either 630 or 650 standards that have been promulgated, right? So, EASA put out a thing. I think they said they're going to put out either 600,000 or 650,000 euros to put together a committee to vet or validate all these standards. So, let's do the math on that real quick. Where are you going to get the expertise or the people to do the validation on each one of these standards for basically €1,000, man?
I think it's RTCA. There's your experts there. I'm horrified that they get mentioned again. This is a very interesting document. It is everything again repackaged, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a recycled fertilizer or something. Yeah. I mean, the RTCA has been a joke from day one. And I'm sorry if I hurt everyone's feelings with the RTCA thing, but I was on it. I was that plucky kid sitting there going, guys, this whole deal's on the up, and we're gonna work hard together, and we're gonna do. And it became apparent to me within like 2 months' time that they do whatever they want. Anybody that has any expertise, squeaky wheels, whatever, you're gone. That happened to me. I mean, they made the guy from the Airline Pilots Association the head of the small UAS committee. It's like, well, you didn't even run that. You didn't talk to me about it. You didn't run it by me. And then the FAA said, don't worry about it, because that's not the true effort. We're going over there to the ASTM, and we're going to do the STM effort, because that we can have our hand on the tiller and work that better. And then that turned out to be a total fustercluck. And so really, to me, it's disingenuous, and they have wasted a lot of time on these efforts. So you look in here and you see all this education stuff, and all the education stuff sounds great, but I think we talked about on past shows. Okay, so you have all these kids getting STEM education in aviation. Oh, great. The pipeline, they come out of the pipeline. Where's the jobs? That's what I want. There's no, the aerospace industry, especially when it comes to drones, is not, well, it's not here. I don't know, maybe it's in Europe.
I have to be pro the STEM part of it, I suppose, but I do see the pointlessness of it at the same time. It quite honestly, there isn't a K to 12 worth of work in teaching for that.
Not only that, but
that's 6 months at the most. But let's go make some model airplanes and chuck them. That'd be more valuable than learning about drones.
You teach STEM, so I've taught STEM. And the deal is not, and I'm not deriding a whole profession of teachers, because I'm not really a trained educator, but my philosophy is always trying to train the kids to make a living so they can move out of their parents' basement, form a tax base so they'll pick up the trash when I'm retired, right? But the thing with STEM education, and I say this, it's not like teaching, classic, Greek philosophy or something. If it's STEM, I mean, you as a teacher, every week you're changing your curriculum. Technology's changing, the regulations are changing, the outlooks are changing, the forecast is changing. And so you spend most of your weekend updating your curriculum, so you're not teaching your students yesterday's news. So it's a valiant effort, and I really do. I'm like, oh, this is great, but everybody talks about coding over here.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, well, okay, you got your code right here. It is. What is the vessel that you're going to put your code into? Where is that manufactured?
Well, there's that argument, and also you can have too much of it. You can have too much of all of it. Better off picking up all this sort of thing as a club. Now I'm going into my way of thinking. Bruce might have other arguments against this, but a club-based way of doing things. No, but youngsters, if they're not interested, they're not interested. You can't ram it. You can't just shout it harder at them, and they'll take it on board.
You can try.
You
tried with a tannoy and a megaphone? You can't dismiss these options out of hand just because you think they won't work.
Yeah, that's
and a cattle prod maybe. But no, I mean, if you make it harder on people, it's hard to get the kids interested in rocketry or building models. If you're really going to sit down there and put in the work, and hey, this is how the structure comes together, and this is how it works, and you got physics and all the rest of this, and it's like a practical application thing, and you can get kids interested, but not all of them are interested, and they're not going to be interested. That's just the way it is. Sorry. And just because you throw more money at it, that doesn't seem to work. We've kind of figured that out in Western governments. You can throw money at problems and it just doesn't get fixed. You got to have the people that are willing to apply that, and you can't have the barriers to entry be too high. Here in the United States, we're dropping our education requirements for reading and math, while we're talking about STEM. It's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But what I don't really want to go down that. What I feel though, in this DAC advisory committee, the shame is you're wasting a lot of energy on something that is ancillary to what the real problem is. And the real problem here is airspace integration. So I'm doing more of this, and I'm going to have to leave in a half an hour or whatever, but I'm doing more of this military SBIR, sitting in on these webinars. And these people are, I'm trying not to be Chuckles the Clown because I'm interested in a income, so I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. But, it's like, it's totally unrealistic. I don't even know what you people are talking about here. All right. I asked for the written criteria for the blue UAS thing. Could I get the, I did not get the written criteria for the blue UAS thing. And, it's closed, we're moving on. We'll get some other people. But what has happened in the West is this accelerated thing where the technology base is just not here. It used to be in the old days, you had the DoD vendors, and they would, cobble something together and do cost plus contracting. And now everybody's talking about how we're gonna accelerate this process. And I just don't see the lines between A and B. Everything's viewed as a quadcopter. How's the quadcopter going to do it? We're going to use a quadcopter to test for this AAM thing. And it's like these are 12, 15-minute flights, man. You're going to be here, all year flying the little quadcopter around.
But look, this doesn't make sense about training. Look, there's no, in Part 107, there's no sticks
practical test.
There, is there?
Yeah.
And now here we are. Here they are talking about a practical test 17 years later. And look, fly the course using 2-gallon Omni buckets with rounded ring targets. The pilot must constantly rotate the drone through each axis of movement. Blah, 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 blah. It's taken them 17 years to come up with a BMFA or Wings of New Zealand flight test or AMA flight test.
Well, and to me, that's a safety issue to me. That's how you could nip safety right in the bud, is with a practical test. So to me, what we really need to do, and again, they have the beyond visual line of sight arc going. And again, the FAA, and this is another thing, that I always talk about transparency. So they make people on these arcs sign NDAs. It's like, why are you signing an NDA? Well, we don't want it to chill the free, the idea of open conversation and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to call bullshit on that, because the deal is I have to live under these rules. You're going to put them out there. Well, you'll have time to comment on those. And and the way that works is you can comment till you're blue in the face, and they don't have to change anything. And we saw that even with the remote ID thing. So I feel like I'm not really getting my representation there. But I will say most people are tight-lipped. but you have half of the room is saying nothing's going on there, and the other half of the room is going, "Oh no, it's great, it's great," But I still have to say I don't see full integration into the NAS and beyond visual line of sight until there is a onboard certified detect and avoid system.
Hang on, I'm not looking at this. This is dated tomorrow. Oh, oops.
Yes. No, it's tomorrow. They're going to have the hearing, and then you will notice in here that
it's already tomorrow here.
Oh, that's all right then.
It's quite valid. Yes, it's being relayed through New Zealand, where it is actually Wednesday, the 23rd.
I mean, nobody would dare show something from a meeting tomorrow online before the meeting. I mean,
so this is the script for the meeting, is it?
This would be a terribly bad thing to do.
There's slides down there for tomorrow meeting, and the meeting, the community advocate position is vacant. So tomorrow,
who are these people? AMA. What's this? What's this? Who's this?
I know.
The American Medical Association. They always chime in on these things.
There we are.
And they've come across. Guess what? They've come up with some sort of education program. Isn't that wonderful. After 70 some odd years.
It's just amazing, isn't it? Who are all these people? Who are all these people?
Because we had a CA survey, and the CA. I don't know if Ian saw the CA survey or anyone else. We had one in the UK, and the CA says, what can we do about training and education in the drone space? Well, you don't. You're the regulator. It's got bugger all to do with you. The BMFA handles the best practical training that I've ever done. They make the RAEs, and sorry, RAEs, make them look bad, because an RAE is just about passing you with your drone test. They don't teach you a lot of practical. You can do the practical tests with them, yes. But typically, you show up your drone, you do this little flight test, prove you can fly it, and that's it. BMFA, it's a model plane, model helicopter. You get the proper instruction, all the safety stuff, everything. And like the AMA, been around since the 1930s.
Well, and that built. And I think we've talked about it on the program before. Is it built the model aviation culture of safety, which was also something you got at the hobby shops. You went to the counter and, you were going to buy the 90 size turbine.
Well, all I got was a box of Band-Aids.
Yeah. But usually, you go in there and you talk to the guy. Oh, I want to buy it. Well, you know how to fly? Well, no. Then, maybe you want to start over here on the a little foamy and go to the park. And, So all of that's gone. It is not up to. I see EAS is following the FAA path with that Donnie the drone, which they should have named Karen the drone. It's just like who's this supposed to appeal to, man? Who's going to be watching those?
The Director
videos?
General of Aviation. They've got to aim it at his level, man. You can't go too high; it goes over his head.
It goes over his head. No, it's like the Buzzy the drone thing. I kind of beat up on the FAA. Mercilessly, because it was like, we spent all this money. Well, they said they didn't spend any money on Buzzy the drone, but it's like, who is this supposed to appeal to? Buzzy says, come on, man. This is the 21st century, and people are a little bit more sophisticated. I think, anyway.
No, we're not.
We're not. Well, maybe we're not, but the younger kids seem to be a little bit more. That's another thing, all this. There's rules for drones. It's more absurd as every year goes on that anybody can actually, with a straight face, say, "Well, I didn't know there were rules for these things."
It's extraordinary that we've got to 17 years to working out. It might be a good idea to get a bit more training in. That's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's incredible.
It's just mind-boggling.
Well,
are they allowed to say uncrewed? Are they allowed to? Oh, they're saying uncrewed, aren't they? Not unmanned. Do you notice that?
Yeah, the uncrewed thing bugs me too, man. Because and I know I feel like a malcontent over here, but these aircraft are not uncrewed. There is a crew. The FAA in their test talks about crew resource management, man. So they're not autonomous. They're remotely piloted. We didn't want that because it was too European.
Well, I thought the USAF did want that because they didn't want unmanned, because they wanted everyone to know that, no, we've got someone in the loop.
Yeah, but there's other problems now. You've got NOTAM's notice to air missions. Well, hang on a minute. I'm just the pilot. I'm the mission commander. I'm not going to read that.
Well, I can't think of a family friendly. You're stepping all over something to get something else done, but it's like self-inflicted wounds. It's like beating yourself in the head with a club and saying, "Why do I got these black eyes?" They're not well thought out. There's no linear. And you too, Gary. I mean, have you seen like any linear track and regulation in
No.
the last 14, 15, 17 years?
Yeah, no, not at all. And there's the comment there about in India you can make more money from training and certification than actually building and selling drones is absolutely the case here in South Africa. I don't know how it is in the UK and America or New Zealand, but I suspect
around the world.
It's just the same.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
That's why there's so much push for regulation and certifications, because it creates a whole new industry that wouldn't exist otherwise, and that's where the money's to be made.
Can we segue into the flying cars here? I did send you the ADS-B track for the Joby Aviation incident.
I did see the Joby one. Did you see they had a crash of that last week?
They did. It was an incident.
Sorry, an incident. You're absolutely right. It was an incident.
So, I'm cheering folks up on LinkedIn with that deal too, because they have the nice ADS-B track and it's great. It's recorded so you can run it. You can see right before it goes into rock phase. In there, which they're probably. I'm personally calling it a unscheduled landing. I would have went with.
It's just a ground interface maneuver. That's what we call them here.
Ground interface maneuver.
I would have called it an aborted takeoff, but they were in the air for a while, so I don't think anybody buy that. But
interface maneuver.
They have Dan Elwell, who left the FAA under a cloud for the second time. And he's over there, and I'm sure he's like massaging the incident description. And we'll have to see what comes out of that. But that was unpiloted or uncrewed or whatever you want to call it. And I don't think that bodes well for the industry. I think there's some other issues going on with that. They tried to say that they were doing the top speed test, but they were only really, I think in the last turn, they were doing like 105 knots or something, which is not 200 and some odd miles an hour. Are we ready for those? We can't even get the drones in the airspace.
It's crazy, isn't it? It really is bonkers. I mean, remember, going back to the training bit, our A2CFC in the UK, certificate of competency, that has no flight test. So this crash, is it? Or incident, sorry.
Incident, come on now.
Incident, sorry.
Some of you people are so negative.
Was this a control line craft?
Yes.
Yes, a very large one.
Let's see if we can get a better. Can we get something on here with?
Yeah, you could click back on the line there, and it'll run through.
Can you play?
I just wanted to see if we could get something with a little bit of terrain on it.
Oh, I don't know about that. But whatever the case, here's my deal. So my beef with this deal, and it's not that I don't love flying cars. It's like let's get the 251 gram problem solved and get that integrated into the NAS, and then we can talk about this, man. This has been a constant also in this integration effort. Is that you talked about, okay, well, what do you guys want to do? Well, we want to do everything. Well, where do you want to do it? Everywhere. I went all the time. Oh, okay. Well, what do you think that's going to take to do? Well, I don't know. Well, can't we start off like with the, they always say crawl, walk, run, but the wish list is like, to Father Christmas starts with pony and then works its way back to whatever else is on the list, And again, I'm game, but I'm just getting a little tired after 20 years of we can't get this done, but so let's just open it up. That's my
problem. Yeah, I think a lot of observers in grown up general media and investing people in particular are starting to pick up on the notion that this is basically impossible.
No way, Gary. You're like a glass is full kind of guy. You know, you're not even half full. You're I think you're I'm reading these reports coming out of these financial things. Did you see there was some well, you know how that you go to the air shows, right? And it's like that liar's dice or liar's poker where they go into their Boeing. Oh, we got orders for $2 billion worth of aircraft. And then Airbus comes back. Oh, yeah, well, we got 2.2 billion. So
yeah,
the Singapore
2
Air
million
Show,
one, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So at the Singapore Air Show, they've got some deal where they got like over 1,000 orders for some AAM car. And I'm like, did these people get a production certificate? And I didn't even hear about it. You know, I mean, come on now. You know, it's totally ridiculous. And then I saw there was another article, which I posted an excerpt on LinkedIn on, where it's from one of these financial, and they're like, "Oh God, this is going to be great. You should buy the stock now. It's going to go crazy. Joey's back from this."
That's why I wanted to invest. I saw that one as well, but I did see the other ones just calling out as complete bullshit. So you know, people are noticing. They are beginning to notice and realize that nothing's going to come of this.
I do see that in the SBIR thing too, and it's funny as all the engineering people, you know, I keep bringing up this physics thing, you know, and they all start laughing. But the thing is they know how to make money. They're quiet. They don't pull a Patrick Egan and go, "Hey, how's this going to work?" You know, they're like laughing when you bring up physics. You know,
you got to shut up so you can get to the next meeting. You got to get that little paid for job. Yeah, Joby is perhaps the nicest looking one of the bunch, but that's as much as I'll say of it. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to work, but it's perhaps the nicest looking one.
Well, and at least you don't have to egress through the props to get in a cabin, right? That's one of my main. We cut the competition off at the knees, you know. Get in here.
Yeah, well, what's his name? The one in China's gone very quiet recently, hasn't it? I forgot the name of it.
Ehang,
the
failed drone company. Yeah.
They've gone very, very quiet. Well, yeah, failing forward faster, aren't they? They failed by expanding in the press. But yeah, we shall wait and see. I suspect there won't be AAM, UAM, however you want to call it, within my lifetime. And I am planning on living a little bit longer. I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime. Lilium looks good. Yeah, maybe, yes.
Well, don't forget, we already have helicopters for UAM anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what a couple of financial commentators have been saying. Why is this any different to a helicopter? So,
although we have had two nasty helicopter crashes in America. We had one, was it Miami Beach? One went in the sea close to people swimming. And then there was another one in Miami. Was it Miami? Am I thinking?
Huntington Beach, and it was a police helicopter went down. But I try not to be macabre on these things, but I did post something about that first helicopter crash, and it was like, because I don't think anybody died. Was that aircraft certified? Do certified aircraft crash? Yes, they do. One thing that's missing from this drone advisory committee or this AAM thing is that some of the subject matter we talked about in the past, that these aircraft crash. It happens, But when we're starting to talk about safety, I don't see anyone kind of poking the question, right? Is the safety? Where's the safety with the drone thing? Now you've had years. Yeah, I know Steve Dixon's he's going, and there's a lot of people saying about that too. Depending upon who they pick for the next administrator, could be an embarrassment for the FAA. But I think that the credibility of the FAA is like lower than a snake's belly right now, especially after the 5G debacle
and that Netflix documentary.
I haven't watched it yet.
And then the Boeing thing. Now, in the United States, very hard to get negative press on Boeing. You read some of the European magazine articles about the debacle, people from the FAA saying they were on drugs or they would have never went along with that. And then, people hear, those are Airbus shills. and they're just trying to, deride poor Boeing, who's, and it's like, okay. But anyway, we really need to do the FAA, that whole idea that we're not going to sit around or we can't collect data or whatever. And what's funny too, it reminded me today because I saw in that document, Gary talks about the NASA ASRA or whatever, where you can have an accident, you go in and you report it to NASA, and you get kind of a freebie or a mulligan, and you can report it. In 2021, I petitioned for rulemaking to open that up to uncrewed, unmanned, whatever aircraft, and they shot me down. They said no.
Well, you can in England. They haven't done that.
Well, you can here now. They just wouldn't. I guess didn't want to give me the credit for it or whatever. But whatever.
It's only a good idea if someone else thinks of it.
Well, especially if it's not that Egan guy, because nobody likes me. Nobody listens to me, and nobody likes me. That's just not true. They just don't like what I.
But that is true. No, that is true. Nobody does like you all.
We've been trying to push that for a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, he's finally caught up.
Slow learner.
Yeah, there you go. Well, welcome to your new job at the FAA then. It's gotta be. It's. Yeah, aren't they putting old Sully Sullenberger down as your next man for the FAA?
Do you think that guy would want to tarnish his? I think he's the guy that could probably do it, but you'd have to be you'd have to be a nut to want to take over that thing, because I think there's going to be more fallout. You didn't lose some of these people under the dark cloud. Because there's not serious problems. And then it goes back to Peggy Gilligan and Nick Sabatini and some of the other people that were there that said, put a lid on drones. We're going old school. And they put a lid on the stuff at Boeing.
Yeah.
The problem with the FAA have been going on for so long. And this is one other thing too. So before it became the FAA, there was the CAA, and they were chartered by the Department of Commerce, and part of their charter was to promote aviation in the United States. And I think talked about it last time I was here. Lots of aviation, lots of aerospace in the United States, and that is really not the case anymore. So I think it's time to change, where these civil aviation authorities have to quit thinking about aviation as like, a hound dog, and they're a tick and they want to bury in there and, be a parasite or whatever. It's time to promote. And if you promote an industry, then all of that STEM talk you're talking about will have somewhere to go, because you promoted industry. Without it, I think the STEM thing is, it's ridiculous, personally.
Well, it's red herring, isn't it?
It's a good place to throw money,
Yeah, I mean, but as you say, quite right, said, where are the jobs? If you can let some youngsters come into the model aviation hobby and enjoy that, and then fly in the park and do other stuff, well, then that's great, and learn other engineering skills, other skills around it, but not just drone for drone's sake, because drones are going to be flown by, there's going to be a drone in every corner. We're going to need millions of drone operators. My ass.
Yeah, but it's a great way to spin the PR and make it look like you're doing something positive and you're in touch with everything. And perception becomes reality. The public see this and go, wow, this is fantastic. And they don't look at the fact that, yeah, it's great, but these kids, they learn all this stuff, but they can't get in the park and fly a toy plane because there's regulations that prevent them.
Well, and if you're going to sit in front of a computer, right, now you got the metaverse, and you can go to a rave on the computer. Do you want to, work on writing code, or are you going to go to the rave and, listen to tunes? And the whole deal's gone nuts, man. I just, I don't even understand it anymore.
I'm looking forward to the virtual basement tours. They're going to be great.
The virtual basement. Isn't Drone Deploy working on that? Didn't they have like an interior...
Yeah, they did. Yes, doing real estate stuff.
The arse is falling out of that too. Look at Facebook's valuations, and they've spent how many hundreds of millions of dollars on this Meta thing, and it's just a giant. It's a great idea, but there's no practical value to it in reality. How's it going to improve anyone's life? How's it going to improve efficiency, productivity? It doesn't contribute anything. They're trying to find a new way to repurpose and become important again, but it's not going to happen.
Are you even on Facebook, Bruce? I would figure you're got kicked off by now.
I only use it when I have to. So I'm not a regular. I logged in this morning because I have a page and someone reported something was thing, but it's too much noise and not enough signal on Facebook.
I just keep getting thrown in Facebook jail for memes that I posted 3 years ago. So I don't know.
That's why I stick to YouTube.
Times change,
YouTube know how to cancel. You notice on YouTube too, the whole thing, not just the videos, but the comments are being dramatically filtered now. I went to one of Alan Yu's videos and it said 5 comments, but there are only 2 comments visible. I thought, hang on, where's the other 3? So I went to newest first, and then it brought up the ones that mentioned Trudeau and other things that are obviously not supposed to be readily seen by people because it doesn't fit with the narrative that's being published. So they're suppressing comments, and they're filtering, shaping this people's view of the world. There should be a law against it. I mean, they're abusing their power to shape people's view of the world.
Well,
it depends whether they're a publisher or entertainment.
Well, that's the thing. They claim to be a platform, but if they're going to filter comments and that they become a publisher, they should lose all those protections. But for some reason, they have the protections of a platform with the power of a publisher, and nobody's calling them up on it.
And this brings up a bigger point, and this goes back to, and I forget when that was, Gary. You probably remember. You ran the story about the Texas slaughterhouse deal, and they were dumping the blood. And that was the first shot across the bow with drone video. Remember how that melted down? Do you remember that?
Yeah. And Texas actually changed the law to make it now you'd be prosecuted if you if you took those images of an environmental problem from model aircraft or pads, you'll be prosecuted now. They completely changed it.
What?
Yeah, and the guy was just like, he was down at the river flying his drone, and he just happened to catch them illegally dumping blood into the river from this slaughterhouse. And and that was like one of the first journalism deals. And we ran the story, and I think it was mentioned even in the court case where they saw it, they came back, and they changed the law. And then we saw the progression. Remember Standing Rock? Remember that?
Yes. Yes.
People we knew, we had them come to the expo and talk about citizen journalism with drones. And remember, weren't they shooting them down and saying you can't fly drones here? And the FAA was putting up TFRs. So I think what we've seen, the punchline on the deal is what we've seen is a suppression of using this technology for journalism. And all of these outlets that we have known in the past to putting content on or whatever seem to be complicit in shaping that message. Scary times.
You actually just reminded me of a Facebook conversation. So someone out of the blue reached out to me. Now, we've had bad weather for the past 4 or 5 days, like the worst in the country, as Ian said earlier. And in Kent, there's a gas power station, and it powers 3 million homes. It has the 3 big chimney stacks, but one of them gone over. The middle one had just gone. You probably saw the photos in the mail or on Instagram, everywhere. This guy I know took his drone up, took a photo of it, and while he was doing that, security come along and threatened him. They took he wouldn't give his name, but they took his car number plate, and they said, if you publish the images, you show the images, you're breaking security for the national grid, this, that, and the other. If that image gets out, blah, 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 really giving the guy some real grief. And then in the Daily Mail, literally, as he's talking to me, I look and there's like loads of pictures that are not his. It's like, hang on a minute, how can it be a security risk if it's got out from the site itself, from other people? How is his shot a security risk when there's...
They just caught him. That's your counter UAS argument, right? So, and it's the same thing with going onto YouTube and seeing, photos. You see video and stuff from everywhere. It's not even a bad joke. That's the thing that really gets my go. We're going to register these things, and that's going to bring in some compliance and responsibility and some other, weapons grade bullshit that nobody's believing, and it's going on everywhere. It's just really, if you get caught, if you're the guy at the prison bringing in the carton of cigarettes and booze, And you get busted, they're going to make an example out of you. You don't get busted, everybody's happy in there. It's really pathetic. I don't know if it's 1,000 cuts thing or you're just not going to be able to, save yourself from all of the, let's say, nefarious uses of modern technology.
Well, and the thing is, all this stuff could be captured by a microlight or a plane, or a helicopter. It's in my head.
But they'd have skin in the game.
Well, not only do you have skin in the game, it's really the barrier to entry, and I'm sure it's got to be worse where you guys live. I knew people, that they had a share in a plane or they had a pilot's license and they would fly. It's just super expensive to have an aircraft these days, and so really you're just cutting out a large segment of the population who just not able to use that airspace unless you can afford it.
Yeah, and in New Zealand, remember, you can't fly a drone over any property without the prior permission of the property owner.
Yeah, though they tried that here, and I go, that's going to be difficult.
2012, look, 2012. That's how long ago.
It was that long ago?
It was that long ago.
There's plenty of videos on YouTube of them. There was a video of them being confronted by police and things. In future filming events they went out to film, the police just fronted up and told them they can't do it and tried to seize the gear and everything. Took them to the station.
I can't believe that.
There's the blood there. And they'd run a pipe through the field here, and they were just pumping the blood straight out of the abattoir. And it wasn't even a drone. It was back when remember those exposure airframes? Everyone used to put a DLSR on the front there. Because
technically, in 2012, that was the FAA. That was, and if you were making money, taking pictures for publication, whatever, that was commercial, and you were flying a drone.
Biggest story ever, because the bloke sent us the pictures. Very good of him. He sent us the pictures, so we absolutely had it first. And
we had that one, and then when Jim Williams was at the remember that story blew up when he was at the spoke at the Small Unmanned Systems Business Expo in 2013. And everybody in the audience was like from all of the major news networks, and the whole thing just like boom blew up, and they were like, FAA says he's going to be flying around, and then people were yelling. They were like, "You didn't tell me," I'm like, "I didn't invite them." They paid the gate fee, man. They were sitting in the audience. I didn't know. Here I'm just cracking corny jokes, and it's on CBS. So we have had some successes, but I think the guy from Boeing was pissed too. But anyway, we have had some successes. I can't believe that was 2012 though, Gary. Wow.
Yeah.
Drones are new.
A decade ago.
A decade ago. Yeah, it is a decade ago, isn't it? That's amazing.
And nobody has died as the result of the recreational use of multi-rotor drones during that entire decade.
But that pilot will be prosecuted now if he sends us the pictures again.
I know it's totally crazy. I Chuckles the clown here's got to go. I got to sign off and try and make some money. So
good, man.
It was nice hanging with you guys, and till next time.
All right, take care, Patrick. Cheers. Well, there we are. Yeah,
he's got to get his suit on.
I forgot the Jim Williams thing at the conference and other stuff. There's lots of things I've had to forget over the years.
It's the effect of the vaccine and the 5G, Gary.
Yeah,
the combined effect erases those memories.
If I could find the 5G here, I'd be amused. I'd like to see how it works. And speaking of 5G, that leads very nicely into Ian, who was playing around with 5G in a stadium last week, and the FPV racing, Ian, just looked like the paint was drying. But
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you're that sort of a
but you're a bit of a geek. Are you in your mother's basement right now?
Yes.
No, yeah. Do you love the exposure on this camera? Like I lean forward, move backwards. I mean, move it to where it might.
Yeah,
probably need to turn that light off, doesn't it?
No quality chairs in that place. No quality chairs.
No,
it really brings your quality of broadcast way down without a chair.
Is it a Premier?
No, it's not. It's a Holiday. It's a Holiday Inn. But yeah, no, it's good. It was good. It was. potentially the world's first fully digital race. It was not without its challenges and difficulties. A great location, but horrible from an RF point of view. But it was a good day. I think there was a lot of learning, a lot of great people. The only problem is, in some ways, we're on this verge of this perceived change in systems, and the second and today's been another big day of this as well, for those who follow the HD0 stuff. And I'm not going to call it toxic's wrong, but you've got this, oh my god, they're not showing it properly, or they're not doing the system justice. And like, a system will behave as it behaves. As long as you're doing, for the most part, everything right, then it will be what it will be. The live stream had some issues. It may have been to do with the location of the receivers. There's a combination of things, the Wi-Fi. But at the end of the day, a product has to stand up for itself as well among general users. The geeks like me and Bruce can play with stuff and get it to work the best we can possibly get it. But at the end of the day, see, there's his geek stick there. And, there is this feeling on HD0 at the moment that if anyone says anything bad, they're against the system. And it's just not the case. There's been a lot of hoo-ha today about a video, and I've just watched it just before coming on. And I'll be honest, I was expecting something a lot worse than it was. It wasn't, every system has its inherent upsides and downsides. But the race itself was very good. I enjoyed it. There were some amazing people. It was a demonstration of some 5G technology, which I wasn't really involved in seeing too much about. That was sort of a back-end thing with O2 and Virgin Media in the UK. So yeah, it was great to experience it in the day, and I'd like to go to some more races. Actually, it's interesting to see people. And funny, if Bruce is really good at this, people like flying videos. People really do like flying, and Bruce has his massive following on when he goes down the field. It doesn't have to be you flying either. And I don't post a lot of flying, and there's a reason I don't post it, is because I don't want to give someone an excuse to phone the CAA for no good reason, or go through what I've seen Bruce go through.
They don't need an excuse.
No, well, that's what happened with Bruce. Yeah, and well, they need an excuse, Bruce, if you're not flying on film. Do you know what I mean? It's really hard at that point, isn't it? But Bruce has sort of laid the path for many of us, and I decided very early on that I won't post that much of my own flying, because simply I don't want to give a reason. And I have posted a bit more. And what I do post is very, very leisurely, on purpose, frankly. It's done. If you're reviewing a camera, there's no point throwing it around all of the time. If you're going to review a camera, you need to let people look at the image, really, don't you? So if you want to see what the image is like, they need to look at it. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm going to try to get to a few more of the Team Woolly Sheep ones, which is the Welsh races this year. And Team Woolly Sheep, that is officially the Wales boys.
I've got some of their quads.
Yeah,
there's a company, Team Woolly Sheep. Is that the one? Are they sponsoring it or something?
I think it's it must be.
Good point from Wolf. Sure. What's the point of the 5G if you're not allowed to use 5G in the air? I see lots of people are also trying to export the dongles for the Mavic 3 from
and they can't.
Hong Kong, and it's not happening for them. What was the point of the 5G?
The 5G was nothing to do with flying. The 5G is to do with transmitting race events. Any event, in fact. It was nothing to do with the aircraft flying. It was to do with the showcasing of events in stadiums. The project itself is basically looking at how you improve people's experience in a stadium. So, for instance, if you're watching live football in a stadium, you're at one end and the match is at the other. The idea is you'll be able to pull your phone out and start watching any of the multiple cameras from within the stadium.
Well, you might as well be at home in front of the TV on the sofa.
But you could be at home on TV, yeah. But the idea of this isn't on the actual network. It would almost be local bands, if you know what I mean. You're not congesting the network, because if you imagine going into a stadium full of people, every phone is on the network. It gets down to about a tenth of a kilobyte a second. So the idea is I'm looking at ways they can improve people's experiences in stadium. And there was 2 events. The drone racing event was one of them, and that was being streamed both online, but also being streamed via their technology to a private area and party where they were demonstrating that technology as well.
Sounds like something you might want to use if you want to get data somewhere quickly, like something like horse racing or something like that. Sounds ideal to.
But 5G is
Yeah,
ideal for
speed in
microcells, isn't it? Microcell, because the low power technology, you can set up your own microcells, run a subnet that's handles all its own traffic.
And actually, what they're looking at in some ways is not actually duplex, a single streaming 5G. So almost like, because there's a big push actually at the moment for 5G to take over from terrestrial television. There's a big push on the 5G technology being used to replace terrestrial, and they can then sell those bands off. Because remember, TV takes up quite a lot of bandwidth down in that.
But who's using terrestrial TV? Everyone I know just uses fiber.
Yeah.
That boat's probably sailed, isn't it? I should think in most places.
I think there's a lot of ability to, if they, there's a lot of money in bands now, isn't there? So if there's any ability for a government to replace something with something and then sell that off for a lot of money, like they did in the US, there's.
Well, they've already done that with the analog band for television, haven't they? Where the VHF and UHF frequencies for TV broadcast is now part of the 5G spectrum because they basically put TV onto digital. So the analog band, we just...
and the next natural step then is, can you shift it further out the way again and onto an existing band? And that's the next big thing.
Well, we're getting that digital TV here for the World Cup in 2010. We're getting it for that.
It'll be fantastic.
Oh, no, it still hasn't happened.
Temporal anomaly.
We don't have the mobile coverage anywhere near good enough to even consider it. Our 4G is so crap in this country, it's unreal.
But you can pipe it to a point and then 5G out for the last mile if you want to.
Don't get me started. People have come up with this thing about 5G being the saviour of mobile, this and the other. Honestly, they don't work in rural environments in the UK. All they do is work in cities.
That's why we have the vaccine. Everybody is a node on the network now. It'll be just everywhere.
Believe it or not, and when I looked earlier, right there,
that was a nice text message.
Oh God, I've used up 75% of my data. I might have to hop back onto the Wi-Fi. This is strange. This must be using some data. Right, let me hop onto the Wi-Fi. One moment.
I think you need to go down to 240p.
Now, this is also why TV cannot switch to 5G, because the data allowance won't be big enough.
Yeah, but remember the phone companies are buying these bits at wholesale and retailing them to us, so there's a margin on it.
Yeah, but you imagine, as Ian said,
just imagine Just imagine. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
No, so go on.
Well, I was just saying that how much more granular data the TV companies would then have on people for pumping adverts.
Yeah. So
that's much better.
Yeah. So the problem is, as Ian's just demonstrated, your 5G contract. So you imagine trying to shift all TV to 5G. Could you imagine the bill trying to watch just a normal TV program? That alone, when TVs in households can be on for 6 hours a day.
Yeah, it's slightly different, Mark, but it's not the same thing. They talk about using the 5G technology and bands, but on separate. It's not on about the carrier. Yeah. I'm actually on 5G here. Look at that. I'm actually on 5G. No wonder I feel like my brain is being irradiated.
Well, I think I could probably almost name exactly where all the 5G cell towers are for the entire country here. There's that few of them. I don't think my fingers and toes are enough to count them. So it's still arriving here. So say we were supposed to have digital TV and they sold the spectrum, but they kept running analog TV. They haven't changed.
Well, I've got 4G.
There you go. That's the problem.
I've got 4G, but what you can't see is I'm in a city and I've still not got 5 bars of 4G. My bars are not all the way up, even in a city. And I know where the transmission tower is. It's over there. Oh, actually, there's one over there, and it's within half a kilometre of me. There's one behind me.
What's that Huawei gear for there, Bruce?
This is a I think it's, I'm not sure if it's for, I think it's only 4G, but it is a wireless last mile type internet thing, and you can just buy these and plonk them beside your television, plug them in, and there's your Netflix and your Prime and so forth. And some of the telcos here are pushing them very, very strongly because they don't they split up the whole telecom thing into the lines company and the ISP company. So those companies are all now looking for alternatives to using the fiber because they have to pay to use the fiber. But if they use their cellular networks, they can deliver internet to you without that extra cost. So there's been a big push to get these things out instead of fiber. And it's working quite well because they gave me this one for free.
Well, you would think that they would be clever enough now that you could quite happily just put them up on the side of the house, and connect to another one that's 200 meters away, to another one that's 200 meters away. You could quite happily create quite nice, cheap network.
Mesh network.
That's what I proposed years ago using Raspberry Pis and lasers. You could create a suburban network with a massive bandwidth, and you could then have within that suburban area, you could set up your own servers and things and just run a local version of the internet with a gateway to the wider net. But a lot of stuff would be just, within that particular small regional area. And so when you put your DVD on at night, everyone can watch it. Fantastic.
Yes.
I'm just looking. There are a few Wi-Fi mesh network programs now for, times of worry and woe. It's quite easy to stand up now with Raspberry Pis, that sort of a thing, without the lasers. The lasers bit's not quite so easy.
This is good. I didn't realize this ships with default passwords, or the default username is admin and the default password is admin. So how many people won't have changed that?
Now what's really interesting about that, Bruce, though, is a lot of devices do ship with that kind of stuff. TVs do, Wi-Fi routers do, for households. But that's how hackers get into your systems, because people do not read the manual and do not understand. Go in and change your frigging password.
Yeah, I changed mine to pass and 123, I think. Because no one would ever guess that. No one will guess that.
It's like password is password. No one will ever think of that.
Yeah. No. Look, we are definitely talking nonsense. Have we seen any other news before I put the ban hammer down on this one?
Just that Boeing documentary on Netflix was very, very interesting. It painted the FAA in an extremely poor light. While people were dying in these crashes, the FAA is saying, there's no reason to ground these aircraft. No, that's fine. We trust Boeing. And I think that removes their license to regulate toys.
Was this attitude as a result of it being an American company and they didn't want to be seen to adverse effect on a massive American company?
Yeah, well, the FAA is a government agency, and the government didn't want all the loss of export revenues that would come from having these damn things rendered unusable. And the thing that really concerned me most of all, and I tweeted about it, is that hundreds of people died. There was definite liability because it got fined, $2.5 billion or something. But corporations themselves don't make decisions. It's people in corporations that make decisions. Nobody, as far as I could see, even lost their job over this. Yet they made decisions that resulted in hundreds of deaths. Now, that is, at the very least, manslaughter, right? So if this was one person making those decisions, they would have been given a life sentence. A corporation hides behind these corporate curtains and, we'll give them a $2.5 billion fine. That doesn't punish anybody. They just put the prices up. And so the people responsible have not suffered any censure or punishment as a result of their bad actions and bad choices. So what's to stop them doing it again?
And who was the first country or CAA or FAA, who was the first one to say they need to be grounded? Was it the FAA that triggered it, or was
it was all the other countries? It was the USA, not the USA. There was Australia, UK, a lot of European countries said these planes are grounded. The FAA was still saying no, you can still fly them.
Because I know we triggered, but I can't remember if we triggered after someone else, because we triggered. We triggered, and there were planes en route, and they had to go back to their place of origin. There was a couple that could land because they were in our airspace. The rest all had to be spun. And anything going to Ireland, incidentally, as soon as the UKCA said, that's it, you can't enter our airspace, as soon as the ones were heading towards Ireland, even they had to be spun because you can't get to Ireland if you come through us. So theirs literally followed us and said, that's it, you can't fly.
Yeah, and there was $2.5 billion penalty. But if you look at, they sold thousands of those aircraft, and the profits on them must have been enormous. I think they still made a profit even with the penalty. Wow. So it's just a case of, well, this penalty becomes a cost of doing business this way.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, someone would go down for manslaughter, I would think. If that was a UK company, someone would have gone down for manslaughter. You know.
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced?
I'm not convinced. They would have buried it, Mark. I can tell you now, a company that big, they'd have buried it. Yeah. Just look at the post office situation in the UK.
Oh.
Just look at, you had the woman in charge of the post office thing. There's so many people complicit.
Didn't she a dame or something, the woman? Or did she get some honour or something, the woman running that? That's terrible.
Terrible. You know, they didn't, no one died, but people did take their own lives.
They have since, haven't they? Taken their lives since.
Yeah.
I'm afraid the CEO of Boeing got a $60 million golden handshake or something, didn't he, when he left? The guy that was in charge at the time. He got a big reward. He didn't have to work again. He's set for the rest of his life because he killed hundreds of people effectively by being... And the further up you go up the food chain, you get more money, so you must take more responsibility and be more culpable.
Well, safety begins at the top. It doesn't belong. Safety doesn't start with the person sweeping the hangar. It starts right at the top, right at the very, very top, and trickles down. But it's a wider picture. It's a wider disgrace to the entire aviation community, isn't it? That company thought they could do that and thought it was okay. So it's bigger than. It's wrong to say that. Then there's poor people that lost their lives and things, but it's an indictment on the entire industry, really,
and the FAA for allowing it to happen. That's why I say they've got no mandate to regulate children's toys if they can't properly regulate things that cost human lives. I think that they should discount this. You know, they're out of it. Let the BMFA and the AMA or whatever, let the community regulate itself. We're not a threat to anybody. Sure, regulate commercial operations, but the hobby, get out of our face. Bring back Section 336.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. You know, in the hobby, if there was a speed controller that was always blowing up or a radio that was always causing a problem, how quick does that news spread around the community? It's like lightning quick, isn't it? Yeah. Would that company have a business after a couple of days? No, because we wouldn't buy that crap.
Well, Ian does it with DJI all the time.
Yeah, they still seem to keep going. Yeah, no, I must, when we finish here, I might just watch that. I should sleep, but I might just watch that doco. I've been meaning
I've got to watch it as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very, very shocking. So with that,
tear yourself away from those hub channels and go and watch something useful.
But it says it's a hub, so it must be important. It's port, isn't it? It's something about sailing, isn't it? Something like that. Port hub, something like that, isn't it?
In it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'll just quickly mention it. That chap in the field at Heathrow did very well last week, didn't he? On Friday when the wind was happening, and he was doing that live streaming of the landings. That did his channel no end of good.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, that goes to show how resilient these planes are. But I'm surprised they didn't turn around and go, no, you're not landing here today. But
well, I'm amazed how pervasive. Even my brother was sat watching it on this big screen TV in the UK, and he's not an aviation sort of person. So obviously the news of that channel got around the UK very, very quickly, and it became quite a thing.
Well, one of my most popular videos is crosswind landings at Tokyo Airfield. People love watching that stuff.
Yeah. Oh no, it's going to crash. And with that, let's make this show crash. Is that almost?
I think it crashed right from the outset. Actually.
Yeah, I think it probably.
We'll formalise that. We'll formalise it.
Formalise it. Yeah, absolutely. Divya, wherever you are in the world, port wine. Yes. Yeah, actually, it'd be nice. Wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. We'll see you again 2100 GMT next week. Take care. Thanks, lads. See you all next week. Bye bye. 2 clicks now. 1 here.